Hello, friends, and welcome to Singers in Conversation. We got a bunch of singers in the Zoom today. It's our final interview happy hour event of the year for Decameron Opera Coalition, which was recently named one of the top industry-defining moments in opera of 2020 by OperaWire. Thank you, OperaWire. Appreciate the recognition. I'm a composer. I'm Peter Hilliard, and with librettist Matt Baresi, we wrote the Frame opera, which ties the other 9 operas together. If you haven't watched those 10 operas, as soon as we're done here, you're going to want to head over to DecameronOperaCoalition.org as soon as we're done, and you can purchase access and watch all 4 episodes. You can watch all 9 operas and the frame that holds it together at your leisure. It'll be yours on demand. I also want to encourage you to join our mailing list so that you can keep up not only with what the Decameron Opera Coalition is going to be doing coming up. We have some exciting things planned, but also to keep up with the companies that are members of Decameron Opera Coalition and keep up with all the amazing things they're doing all across the country. I think there's going to be a link at some point in the chat below wherever you're watching. And then you can sign up to get the occasional email from us. Don't worry, we won't bombard you. Also, wherever you are watching this, there's also a chat, and you can ask questions that will hopefully get through to me, and I'll be able to ask these amazing singers your questions, because I'm sure you have some. Great, so first thing we need to do is introduce all these amazing singers. So I'd love for each of you to introduce yourselves. Say who you are and what opera you were in and which company put that opera on. And I would love to hear what the first opera you ever saw was. Now, 2 of you, I think, have already answered that question for me. So I also want to know what the first opera you were in. What was the first opera you were in, and what role did you play? So can we start with Anna, because I think you have to go early.
Yeah, hi, I'm Anna Hashizume, and I was in an opera theater's production of The Sky Where You Are. I played Jo. The first opera I ever saw, I believe, was Pearl Fishers at Minnesota Opera when I was really young. I don't remember, I hardly remember any of it. I was way too young to enjoy Pearl Fishers. And I had no knowledge of opera. So really, I feel like in my mind, my first opera I ever saw was Così when I went to college. It was my school's production of Così. So that's really my first opera experience, but I did see Pearl Fishers before. And the first opera I was ever in was also in college. I was in a production of La Boheme, and I was just in the chorus. I gave Mimi her cuffietta. That was my little thing as a freshman. I was so happy to get to do that. So yeah, that's me.
Excellent, excellent. Kathryn, you're up next in my little box.
Great. Well, I am Kathryn Henley, and I'm also in The Sky Where You Are, an opera theater's production all the way from Minneapolis. I played Reina. The first opera I ever saw, I'm fairly positive, would have to be The Magic Flute. My mother, Maggie Harrer, was directing it, and the story goes that all I wanted to do was make it to see Papagena at the end, but she's so late in the game that I think I conked out like right before she made her grand entrance. So tragedies. The first opera I was in would be La Traviata, and I played I was an ensemble member, and I was a gypsy dancer at Flora's party. Or Violetta's party, gosh. But I think the first opera that I really had an opportunity to sing a solo role in would have been Monteverdi's L'Orfeo at Ithaca College. We had a really great team of David Lefkowitz and Brian Damaris were our opera team. They were visionary and asked us to do very exciting, seldom done Baroque stuff. And I got to play La Musica and flex my ornamentation. It was really fun.
Nice. Yeah, Monteverdi is so hip. Every time I watch it, I'm like,
it really is
wild. This is crazy.
Oh yeah, it's a bop. And if you put a beat under it, you're like, you'd be fine on your commute. It's awesome.
Awesome. Great. All right, KF Jacques, talk to me.
Speaking of putting beats under things, so my first opera was one that I was actually in, and I was in the lyric opera children's chorus for Boyto's Mephistopheles with Samuel Ramey, and that was my first experience. And of course, that's how I got hooked. So, by the way, Kari F. Jacques Laurent, I did Corsair for Chicago Fringe Opera.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, Sharon and Ryan, you're going to tag team this.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
I'm Sharon Apostolou.
I'm Ryan McPherson.
And we were in Urban Aria's The Roost.
Well, yeah, Urban Arias. Sorry,
Urban Arias.
I was going to follow up.
Got you.
Yeah.
The first opera I ever saw was also The Magic Flute. I grew up right outside of New York City, and my high school used to take us to the dress rehearsals at the Met.
Nice.
I was one of those kids that gets trucked into the dress rehearsals.
Gateway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was like, this is amazing. What is happening? So yeah, that definitely hooked me. The first opera I was ever in, was probably Fledermaus when I was in college. And then I was in like the dancing, singing chorus. And then the first opera I probably ever sang in was actually The Rise and Fall of the City of Mahagoni. I was like, what? Yeah, when I was we did it in college.
Sure. Like
Thanks, Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah. My first opera that I saw was Floyd's Susanna at Kansas City Lyric. My high school choir teacher took us. We sat up a nosebleed and watched it from the cheap seats and had a great time. Great time. And I think it was one of those ones with partial nudity, where she's bathing down at the front of the, like on the lip of the stage or something like that. So our parents,
like, sold.
Our parents like, I'm in. And my first thing I was in, if you'll count Gilbert and Sullivan on this scale, was the chorus and ensemble in Mikado. And then first singing role in opera was another Gilbert and Sullivan, was Pirates of Penzance. I played Sam.
Great.
So,
awesome.
And from there, it's all been downhill.
All right, Elizabeth.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Blood, excuse me, and I sang and wrote the music for Orsa y Bernata with Milwaukee Opera Theater. And the first opera, I was in an opera before I ever saw one, but the one I sang in was L'Enfant et le Sortilège, and I played the wallpaper shepherd. So that was cute. And then the first opera that I ever saw, we went with the opera club at my college, and we saw Dead Man Walking by Jake Heggie. So.
Wow, heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jarrell, I don't even know the answers to these questions, but I can't wait to hear what you got.
Yeah, hi everyone. Jarrell? So I have two answers to your question, but I'm going to say that I was the amazing headless horseman without the horse, and everything comes to a head with Lyric Opera of the North as a real basil. P.S. I'm having pizza tonight. So two answers to my question. Number one, everyone here, before you say what your first opera is, and for everyone that has said what their favorite opera is, you're all liars, because everyone's first opera was my first opera, What's Opera, Doc, a Chuck Jones Warner Brothers production featuring Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd. Get it together, everyone. My real answer, the very first opera that I was in, similar to Sharon, getting trucked in via undergrad to the Met for their dress rehearsals, was a dual rehearsal, first for Les Troyens featuring Dwayne Croft, Domingo, and Deborah Voigt. Second after that was Peak Dom featuring Anna Netrebko, Domingo, and Dwayne Croft. So yeah, that was my first opera I saw. I was at the Met, and my first show that I was in was Lehar's The Merry Widow as military attaché Kromov. Yes, I was a military dictator in The Merry Widow. Yeah.
Awesome. See, that you look back, it used to be kind of a thing to know the trivia of who your favorite diva's like first role was. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's like a shocker, like it's out of Fach or whatever. Jarrell, that's amazing. This is a wonderful thing to know about you. I feel like I can hold it over your head a little bit.
Please do. There's more.
All right, Karin.
Hi, I'm Karin Cecilia Phelps. I was in 7 Spells. And I believe I have to change my answer because of what Jarrell said. I was going to say the Magic Flute at the Met, which was actually the first one I can remember. But if I think back to it, it was probably Hey Arnold, because there was an episode with Carmen and Pagliacci, some sort of something going on with Pagliacci and Carmen characters.
I've tarnished this whole chat. Sorry, Peter.
And I believe the first opera that I was part of myself was oops, do you guys hear me?
You're cutting out a little bit, but go ahead. Oh, you froze.
Oops, I think I have a little disconnection right now. Can everyone hear me?
I hear you, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. My first opera I performed in was Street Scene. And I played Olga Olsen, which out of Fach was a contralto role. So a little out of Fach, not too bad.
Well, we got a Street Scene and a Mahagani and a couple of Magic Flutes. Not bad, not bad. Tess.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tess Altaveros. I was in Sourdough Rise Up with Resonance Works. And let's see, I can't actually remember which thing happened first, but the first opera maybe I saw / was in, I was in the kids chorus for Turandot with Jane Eaglin, and it blew my mind. And so right around that same time, I saw the first one I saw that I was Bohème. And my dad lives in Germany, and he took me to see it in Germany, and I don't really speak German fluently. And so they did it in Italian, and the super titles were in German. And I was like, I don't quite know what's going on, but I got the gist of it. But I do remember, though, the tenor finished Che Gelida Manina, and there was a heckler in the back, and the heckler started shouting something in German, and then the tenor started shouting something back.
Nice.
And then we all moved on, but it was a very memorable evening.
Yeah.
And my first role was in college. We did Kirk Meacham's Tartuffe, and I sang Elmire, which is a mezzo role, which I like to do mezzo roles sometimes for the hell of it.
Man, amazing. I love that. Like it's stand-up comedy. Just get it right back to the heckler. And
I turned to my dad's girlfriend who was German, and I said, "What are they saying?" And apparently the heckler was just, booing, and the tenor walked downstage and looked up at it and said, "You can do it better. You come down here and show us."
Amazing. Well, Brianna, you're up. You're the last one.
Hey, y'all. I'm Brianna Hunter, and I was in The Late Walk, Bear Opera, and I played the role of Tamara. My first opera that I ever saw was Madama Butterfly. And the first opera I was in, I believe, was Summer and Smoke by Li Huibi. And I played Rosa Gonzalez.
Wow.
Someone might fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure I've thought about it. I've had this time to really think about it, and that's what I'm going with.
You Google yourself and say, "No, what is?" All right. Well, that was great. Awesome. I feel like I've learned a lot about each of you. So I feel like almost everyone in this room was in another one of these meetings, mostly after the operas premiered as episodes. So I've heard a lot of the crazy stories about, your filming of this project, but I wondered if there was any that you were holding back of some interesting experience of filming this particular or recording this particular project that you want to share with us before I get to more general questions.
Legal or illegal?
Well, I don't know how to answer that question, Jarrell.
Next.
I've got an Easter egg. We were talking before we went live about Easter eggs, and I thought of a good one.
Okay.
So this is just like a cute story too. It doesn't necessarily have to do with what was going on in the filming, but you'll see it in the final product. So we filmed at Kelly Turpin's home in Minneapolis, and bless she and her partner Justin, up to the sky and down again. They disinfected like fiends. I mean, we were all masked and we were one at a time, but she had this bleach spray bottle that she would come in after every take and everything, and like it was so clean. I felt like I could just lick walls except bleach. But so that's not the point of the story. Sorry. So she lives in this wonderful neighborhood, and her partner Justin, who also, you can hear his dulcet tones as my not so friendly husband, and he is low-key, high-key, an excellent skateboarder in his off time when he's not singing opera. And so the kids from the neighborhood love him. And they've actually started kind of like a skate club where they built a ramp, and they'll just kind of like wait with their skateboards for Justin to come out. And then he'll like teach them tricks, and it's really adorable. So they had told us about this. And one day after rehearsal, we'd actually like sat and watched Skate Club, and it was really, really cute. And as we were filming, there's a part at the end, not really any spoilers, where Raina, she's having a hard time of it, and her wonderful friend Joe is trying to talk her down from the panic mode. And she says, "Can you see the sky from where you are?" And Raina looks out the window, as I did, but we could hear the little voices of Skate Club, like, "Wow, cool trick, man, yeah!" And so I'm looking out there, and I'm living, but I couldn't resist it, guys. I snuck a little look down to see. So if you're into Easter eggs, if you're into deep cuts, if you're watching the end, I think this was the take we used. You can see me, I'm looking, and then my eyes go dink, dink. And I was like, Katie, don't you dare.
Well, now I gotta watch it again.
In my defense, Skate Club, guys, Skate Club.
How are you gonna stay in character when the Skate Club's up, you know?
I'd actually kind of helped. It was very method. It was hopeful. There was like something to get out of there for. Skate Club.
I feel that.
We have one from The Roost. So in the very last act, if you will, of The Roost, we used a drone. So there's a really nice shot when Emily Pulley is walking in. We had the drone following her, and it did a nice pull away sort of shot. And I have some video that I could share if the Camera and Opera Coalition would like it for something, of this drone crashing about four times. It was like slowly, and Paul Pierce would probably kill us, but no, he probably wouldn't. He probably won it. But yeah,
was Paul piloting the? Yeah. Oh, okay.
You'd just be like in your wall, and I'd be like again, and like,
once again reset.
And Emily would like back up and like, into the wall, reset, and just go on and on and on. It was so funny.
Too, right there. It's like a pretty you'd have to be lip syncing, or because they're quite loud. But it's an impressive shot. I'm glad that
it was an amazing effect when they got it, but the trial and error was hilarious.
Yeah. Does that drone still exist today?
Yes.
Yeah.
Resilient.
Yeah.
Piece of technology.
The other little thing we may have mentioned this on one of our pre-show talks, was the fact that our outdoor love scene was the coldest night of our shooting than anything else. Everything else was great.
Degrees. It was freezing.
But we were worried about the humidity, the steam coming out of our voices. So
you could like see the
oh right.
So it was much different because it was supposed to be a beautiful night. It's so hot out and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, it was freezing.
Bob would literally like cover me with a parka in between takes because I'm sitting there like it was shivering.
Amazing.
Yeah. So those are our two things.
Theater, the magic of theater.
Smoke and mirrors.
These are great stories. Anybody else have another story that you've been holding back?
This isn't really a story. This is a quick one. So you know me, Peter.
I do.
I'm a kind soul.
Yes, you are.
But I like to play tricks on people.
What?
And
Look at Brianna.
some things I save for a rainy day. So in the process of recording with the green screen and leading up to days of events, my wife, love her as it may, would do, you know, silly things during the day. And, I would just happen to be standing in the doorway, like, I'm going to get my camera. And then I'd walk away. And I thought, I'm going to use this for a rainy day. And it would just happen for a couple of days. And then we did this shoot. And unbeknownst to me, she posted a video. I don't care about this stuff. And it was really funny, of something that happened during our run. And I thought, okay, strike one. This is cool. This is cool. All right. Fast forward to last night. Just finished filming another show with a green screen, and I had a costume. It was in space, and she posted another photo. You might have saw it on Facebook. It's like, this is my dinner date, and it's me with a pink cap and a purple doctor shirt, and I'm thinking, strike two, you're out. So at some point during our anniversary in a couple of days, I'm going to create a montage of all these magical special moments. And as a Christmas gift to myself, I'm letting everyone in the world know now. You will see some of this magical footage.
Well, this is how you keep the relationship alive. That you just post video of each other.
Yeah, it's happening. So
okay,
not in my house.
Brianna knows.
Do not implicate.
I feel like you have to. I feel like you need like a really great hashtag so we can all search it and find it, and like it can just go viral.
He's just trying to get us all to follow him on social media. That's what this is.
I don't really go on social media that much anymore. It's like,
all right,
life type of person.
So I have a question here that came in in the comment field about what it's like to originate a new role. To do something for the first time, and whether that's nerve-wracking or not. And I know a couple of you have originated roles for me, but you can tell the truth. It's okay. I can handle it. I was thinking, though, I've been thinking about, when you play Tosca or whatever, how many Toscas have there been? Like thousands, probably, right? And there's like a way to do the Tosca. And you got a couple of places where you make some choices, but, it kind of is what it is. Where when you're the first person to do something, you have almost too many options, right? You don't have anybody telling you, well, these are the 5 ways you could sing this part. You kind of have to make it up. Is it nerve-wracking or is it kind of thrilling? Anybody? Ryan.
I'll start because I think it's fantastic because you're not up against any other precedent. Your audience doesn't know what they're getting ready to hear. They haven't made up their mind about it yet, unless it's a composer that they love or don't love. They're probably going to immediately fall into that. I did a lot of stuff with Charles Warren, some of his stuff, and recorded a lot with him. And so when they're brand new, it's all you. It's you and your coach or whoever you've worked the piece up with, or the librettist, to where you get the idea from the source. And that, to me, is the thrilling part of it. And to be very honest, and and I know some of you have listened to hopefully other first recordings of things, maybe not mine, but the notes are not always right. Like I've learned a few of these really difficult pieces where you're listening to like this sort of like first recording and you're like, yeah, that's wrong. So, but the audience doesn't know that, unfortunately. But it does. It's freeing in the sense that you get that little bit of flexibility to where you're not going to get someone standing up and walking out because they don't like your interpretation, because that's really not up to them at this point. Like you are the person setting the bar. So,
right.
I love it.
I'd like to add to what Ryan just so eloquently said. You are setting the bar, because there is nothing more thrilling than doing something for the first time that is like the record. That's it. There is no other record of it being done other than you. That being said, to what Ryan said also, I think where we struggle sometimes is when there is a premiere that you are called into late in the process and there are ideas flowing about and production has begun and you're flying in with like 2 or 3 days and you have to throw it together and create something from scratch, which I'm sure a lot of us have been a part of. For me personally, I like to bring my dish to the table. If you don't like it, especially because it's 2 days, go to another table because I'm sitting down and I'm going to eat. So, but I think when you talk about nerves and when you talk about just the foundation of what the piece is, we have to trust that what we have and what we provide is more than enough to be the original for something. Because even if you sing wrong notes, nobody cares. You will always be the bar that will be set, regardless if staging is off, regardless if the director tells you to do something and in the opening night you do something that is more realistic and the audience reacts to it in a positive way, which happens a lot of the time. Sorry, directors. And that's not going against their will. It's just sometimes them not being on stage, not living through the motions. They're seeing it from a different perspective than we are because we have to interact with each and every character. They can process what that information is based on what their vision board is. But unless you live through it, you will never know what that's like. So that's my skill.
Yeah, I want to add that there was a certain amount of this situation was quite different than learning a new role to be presented on stage, because of course it was super short format for Opera in the Heights, 7 spells. I think we ended up even underneath the time limit we were given, which was 9 minutes, I believe, was the most time anyone could take for our projects. So I think that nerves don't really play a part as much as trying to make something that is original, like Jarrell is saying, like bringing your own actual ideas to the table that fit into something you don't even know a lot about. Because of course, like Tosca, we know the story. If we were to be cast in the role of Tosca, we're sure about the history. We're sure about where Tosca comes from. We're sure about her lover, her past, everything. Where you have to create so much of a backstory for yourself, and then to fit it all into this short format 7-minute video or 9-minute video was definitely a challenge that I had never encountered before. And the other part that was interesting is the shooting for me was a whole day. So it was like maintaining that emotional stability for the entire day that appears in this 7-minute short little film, right? I think that's what I would add.
Sure.
Can I jump in? I'm not going to be as eloquent as everyone else, but I do find originating a role is like a combination of those things. It is thrilling and humbling and a little horrifying all at the same time. This was so different in so many different ways, but our project was Sourdough Rise Up was an animated film. It was a graphic novel inspired opera video, and so the things that I would normally rely on to answer. Oh, there's my cat. Mo says hi, Jarrell. To answer a lot of my questions, to kind of fill in some gaps. Like I like to show up in a process and get a lot of information about my character and how to phrase something from my fellow artists, and they will, they'll sing to me in a certain way, and it'll kind of launch me in a reactive mode, and I'll change the way I sing something based on what I'm hearing them give me. And for this project, I mean, not just for us in that project, but a lot of us were not filming with anybody, but you had to kind of imagine that and create that for yourself without having that live interaction to sort of feed that organic process. And with this one specifically, I couldn't rely on like stuff I would do with my face or anything like that. I had to really, there was a level of trust where I had to hand over just my singing and also make sure that it was the artistry that was being given to me that I could feed off of was the visuals. We had those as we were filming, so I had to kind of try to be of a mind with the visual part that was already there, and so it was just a whole different set of skills to reconcile myself to.
Boy, it's really quite different. Yeah. And you don't, yeah, I think you don't even really realize how much you feed off of the energy of the other people unless you're not in the room. And then you go, "Oh, wow, I really needed them." You know, I really benefit from these other musicians and these other artists. Brianna, you were about to jump in there. What do you got?
Yeah, you guys all made a lot of the points that was basically all the points I was going to make. But the one additional thing I was going to say is having a new role, like where you're the singer in mind versus one where you are not, is interesting. Like, at least for this, I think we always knew it was going to be me. So it was interesting to have some, to not have to like do a lot to the actual, or talk to the composer about, like, oh, this isn't going to work. Like when, even like what I did for you, Peter, like the new role, it was like, you didn't know me before, so we had conversations where I was like, ooh, so my voice does not want to do this. And, we could, adjust things. And that was lovely. And that's another great thing that I really love about doing new work, is that the composer's alive and you can suit something to yourself.
Sure.
So that's, you can have those discussions, hopefully, as long as they're lovely like you, Peter, and not like in their feelings about what they wrote.
Yeah, I mean, like, that goes both ways. Like, having the composer alive, you could get a change or not. When a composer's dead, you just, like, what are they going to do,
Right. So exactly. So I kind of love that, where I'm like, with something like Bizet wouldn't care. I'm sure he would love it. But like, I can actually be like, hey, Peter,
change this note.
I've been like hammering out this one passage for a million years and it's just never going to work. Can we change it? And then Peter will be like, of course. And he'll go to his computer and make something happen, make some magic happen. And that's that. So,
well, anyway. I mean, composers out there, you want singers to enjoy singing your music. If they got a problem with something that you've written, it's in your best interest to rewrite it, because they're going to go out and, like, if you don't, they're going to be like, okay, all right, this is what you want. Here it goes. Josh, you're here. I got to bring you in, and you got to answer a couple of questions. First, introduce yourself. Tell us the opera you were in and the company that commissioned it. And then you want to tell us the first opera that you ever saw, if you can remember, and the first opera that you were in.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So the first question was, I was with Fargo Moorhead Opera's Dinner for Three, which was a hoot. It was a lot of fun. And I live in Fargo. Well, I split my time between Germany and Fargo, but it was nice to have something so fun to do. First opera I ever saw, I'm sure it was a video in music class. I think it was probably the Domingo Carmen on like VHS on one of those roll-in TVs. My first live opera that I saw, I believe, was a Magic Flute at City Opera. Yeah. So wow, am I the third one? Wow. Yeah. Gosh, I think I was like just. Wow, 4. Okay. Yeah, I think I was close to graduating high, so it was like mid to late, probably mid 90s. Let's see. The first opera that I was ever in, I was a freshman in college, and we did a production of Don Pasquale, and we did it like a Greek chorus. So my freshman year, I was in the Greek chorus for Pasquale. And God, I'm sure there are a lot of people that were in that are still singing professionally. And then I think that same year I did Monteverdi. What's the one? Nerone and what's it called? L'incontro nazionale di Popea. That's right. Yeah. So and then so I was primo soldato. So
Great.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. That's wonderful. So we had a couple of questions that I'm gonna kind of combine here. John de los Santos wants to know, having now seen all the operas in the coalition, did you hear any roles and pieces that you weren't in that you want to sing in the future? And then we have another question. Since you can now look back and see what you did, would you want to go back and redo anything? Karin is nodding her head vigorously.
Absolutely. Given the opportunity, now that we've seen it, we talked about this, I think, when we did our premiere, is like the learning curve was real steep in doing this. Like, I have recorded sides, but never like a full show. I've never like lip sank to my own singing. Like, it was a lot.
Yeah, learning that process and then seeing it and going, okay, I would have done that differently if I were, now that I see it.
And it's like, because we recorded in 2 days, so it was like it all happened really quick, and John was like a saint trying to help us through all of it, and like Bob trying to conduct us our own recordings so we could actually lip sync properly. It was like a circus, but it just, like looking back on it, like, I would do X, Y, and Z differently, or I'd record this differently, or I would do this. And it's just, it was
like for duet things that we did together, we actually recorded them separately, and then I sent them separately, and a couple of them I sent synced. So like we should have just sang a duet. A few things we made harder than we should have made, but that's a learning process. Now the next time that there's something like this that has to happen, we'll be better at it.
I would have loved to have been part of Sharon and Ryan's piece because I love you guys. But also I would want my character to be more of a pop-in character, like Mr. Wilson in Home Improvement. Like you only see from here up. And you kind of hear my voice, but you don't because it's muffled through the fence.
So you don't have a head in one, and then you have a head in ours.
Exactly. It's like half a head.
All right. Josh.
Yeah, I'd love to sing Ryan's role in that opera. Yeah. So John de los Santos, you did a good job.
Kathryn, you're up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, honestly, almost every piece that I saw, I was like, oh, that would be so fun. Oh, I want to do that. Oh, that's amazing, And then Elizabeth is wandering through the forest like a woodland nymph, and you're like, that would be so fun. I think the really exciting part about the learning curve being so steep was that it really brought everyone's creativity to this boiling point and forced everyone to think outside of the pot, I guess, if we're using a boiling metaphor, and really to rise to the challenge. And what I love best about that, you're talking about originating a role or not, is with this kind of open-ended, like anything goes, well, almost anything, unless it's over 10 minutes, anything goes, and create and see where you land. You really start to see everyone's distinct flavors. And I think, that to me was so appealing across the board. It made me want to, I'm definitely a personality that if something looks really fun, I want to jump in and dance with you. I want to see where we end up. So that made my FOMO at an all-time high in the best way. But I also think in terms of going back to do anything differently, I actually don't think I would, only because, that's what we knew at the time. And I think that it's really cool to see how it all grew and how we came about it. And also Ann Opera Theater and Maria Thompson Corley and Jenny O'Connell they were incredible about giving us really clear mile marker points. So even though it was wild and kind of like the Wild West of like, and now we're doing this, and here's your libretto, and now here's your score, and see you tomorrow. It really felt like, in a beautiful way, a very stable structure within the Wild West, if that makes any sense. But probably the one thing I would do is not peak at Skate Club. in the middle of a scene, just because of course that's the take that ended up being used. But apparently it's fine. And I don't think you would even know if I hadn't told you. But that's probably the only thing, not Peek at Skate Club, no matter how tempting.
I want to throw this out there. I think that for me, this was sort of in my wheelhouse, making the video and lip syncing and all that stuff. So that's kind of what I do. But even still, there's never enough time. There's never enough opportunity. I always want to do it over again. There's always something or things that I want to tackle again or redo. Of course, with time and people and resources, that's great. But I mean, that's just that pie in the sky sort of artist in me, I guess.
Yeah, you never really finish. You just run out of time, right? I have that on a little plaque in my office as a reminder. At some point, you have to stop and deliver this.
All true. Yeah.
That's true. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that I might go back and not resist building the pillow fort that was my audio recording studio at home. I resisted long enough that it cost us a bunch of time later. But to go back to what Kathryn was saying, I kind of love that like little time capsule I'm always going to remember from 2020. I mean, it's a big time capsule, but that moment where it was like, okay, all right, I'm going to steal all my daughter's pillows and I'm going to take my yoga mat and I'm going to truck it all into the living room. So it's, cherished messes.
Take a picture of it, or is it just in your memory?
There might be a picture somewhere.
Yes.
It's interesting about like a time capsule because I don't know, some of you probably know that I was moving in the midst of moving from a condo into a house. So I filmed it, and then 2 days, and the condo was completely empty. So I couldn't film anywhere but with like the kitchen in the background. Otherwise, it would have looked like a completely empty condo. There was literally nothing there, and we hadn't moved into our house yet. So I mean, I'm gonna have that the backsplash that we did in our kitchen pretty much now forever immortalized.
Nice. Matt and I, we love small opera companies. We think they're the lifeblood of American opera. We think, as far as we're concerned, all the really exciting stuff is happening in small companies. But you all in this room, you've worked at the top gigantic companies and at tiny little places. What's the difference between working at a big, giant opera house with a big staff and working at a small company? Does it feel like a different animal, or are you just singing?
I mean, it's just singing, but I guess the simple answer is money. I mean,
yeah.
The tenor has spoken.
So has this tenor. I'll back you up on that.
Yes.
I will say this, and this is something small, but I'm a big believer that smaller things go a longer way than a large gesture. The thing about smaller companies is you actually get to know the people you work with, and you actually get to know how the organization runs, and you actually, in some small part, in some way, become the heart of that organization because you're associated with them. You're guilty by association, and so there's this honesty track that you feel obligated to deliver at your greatest possible potential, because we all know sometimes you can get lost in the shuffle in the larger scape because you're not handpicked or you're not molded to be the next Pavarotti or Renee Fleming, which is amazing if you have that opportunity. But let's be real, like in the 90s, there were 10 singers, and it's 2020 and there's like 1,000 singers. So it's much more difficult to even make it. So to get to know the people personally, you get to kind of have a say in how you continue that relationship with those organizations and companies. And it's really special because you see the lasting effect via this entire group here. Everyone has a relationship with someone. And now that we're all kind of compiled together, we now have an extended olive branch to the other organizations, and that's amazing. So this is what happens when you work with smaller companies.
I think I do want to say there's one other thing too. I think I want to include universities and conservatories in this small company idea as well, even though some universities have more money than some of the large companies. But I'd say some of the more interesting artistic experiences that I've had, not just participating in university or collegiate performances, but also seeing them. Some of the more interesting things that I've done or seen have taken place at university. So the chances, the risks that can happen, the people that don't have to worry about a paycheck at that moment, they're really just fine-tuning their craft. Everyone's interested, and they're not out just for themselves necessarily. I mean, there are certain programs probably that they are, but it's not getting the art, just getting it done. It's about the process, so much more about the process, even at that point. So I definitely would include that. And I think that's something that, going back to this project, Michael definitely wants Dinner for Three to be done on stage. And I think that he certainly would hope in a way that speed dating or other pieces that he's composed can be done on universities.
Yeah, and I have to point out that most of you said that your first opera production was in a university. So it's really is the place where artists' careers are founded these days. I remember I used to adjudicate a competition with Elaine Malbin, who sang with Lanza, and she was always just flabbergasted that everyone went to college. Because when she was coming up and just starting her career, you just, you met Mr. Bing and you've got a coach and, and then you started singing at the Met, She just didn't understand why you would go to college and waste 4 years of your career. But that's impossible now. Like, you can't do that. And also, I feel like the job of an opera singer is a little, if possible, harder now than it was in the 40s. When in the 40s, you had a very specific repertory. If you got a good coach and you had an ear for language and you had a naturally good instrument, there's a lot of things you could do before you started running into problems. But singers these days, you have to know language after language after language. You got to sing in a lot of different styles and genres and sing like the right way in bel canto and in modern literature. They don't just let you do whatever you want, right? Like, well, Sharon's like, we'll talk about that. Do you think it's harder for young singers now than it used to be, or are things getting better? Talk about that. You're all on the front line.
Absolutely.
What? Oh my God. 100%.
100% harder or better?
100% harder. You have to be like, you are CEO. First of all, you are CEO of you in ways that I don't think singers of the 40s had to be. Like Marilyn Horne was not managing her Instagram page, and you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And I don't know, I'm sure a lot of them did have probably like financial advice and stuff like that, but it's like, it's way more, you just like, you're running your own, like all aspects of your company. And as you get older and your career advances, you get helpers, right? Like you get the management, you get the PR team, you get like publicists, you get things like that. But I don't know, maybe it's the control freak in me personally, but I just feel like I have my hands in all the pots, like at all times. And then it's like, at the end of the day, you're like, oh, right. And I have to give a flawless performance tonight. So it's kind of like making the mental space for your art with all the noise. And I just don't think it was as noisy in those ways for those singers.
Man, now I want to see Marilyn Horne's Instagram. Like, if she had Instagram.
I'm going to call her and be like, okay, Marilyn, what do you want?
What would you put on your fire Instagram page?
Cruda sorte. I'm going to piggyback on what Brianna said and add the caveat that, and I'm speaking from my generational standpoint. I mean, where my generation is, we are the teetering line between the golden age of singers and the new singers, because we still had to record audio, and it had to go on a CD, and had to go with a resume and you had to mail it out and there was no tracking. So if it got lost, you're like, guess I'm not doing that job or getting that audition. The luxury, I will say, of today is that everything is accessible. So in that way, things have advanced and it's a lot easier. You don't have to go through the confronts of having to get everything right the first time because you could not edit a DVD. That just was a no-no. It was one take and you pick the best version of the aria, mistakes and all, and you send it in and hope to God that they didn't hear that the French aria was sung in German. And I have literally done that with Papageno. Not even kidding. Got bored midway through the aria, started singing in Italian because I used to play piano and I would do it in practice rooms. And I actually got the job, but still, that. But also, side note, there is this idea that we have to be a multifaceted artist. And in order to do so, we have to do everything. My main point of discussion with older singers versus newer singers is that the older generation had 1, 2, or 3 different chefs, and that artist was the sous chef. Now we have too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone thinks they know how to bake, but no one's pulled out a bag of flour. So what are you baking? And so my main issue with that is that, yes, everyone is allowed to have an opinion, but take it with a grain of salt and know that we have to be the ultimate final line of defense on what we present as artists. Because it doesn't matter if you are the best coach in the world, the best conductor in the world, the best director in the world, the best whatever, first chair. Like, none of that matters when we walk on stage and we have to be ourselves. Because my performance and everyone in here, whatever performance you deliver, will not reflect on everyone else that has nothing to do with you. Because at the end of the day, it comes back to you. You are the focal point. You are the impetus of why the show goes on. And we have to remember that no matter what generation you're in. So keep that in your back pocket. And real quick, just tying this into world premieres. Yes, Tosca was premiered many years ago. So was A Marriage of Figaro. So was Magic Flute, Don Giovanni, Turandot, doesn't matter. Whenever you walk on the stage and you present a role for the first time ever, regardless if it was something that was written for you or something written 400 years ago, that is your world premiere. That is the first time the world will see you in that role. Take that as you will and know that what you bring is better than, not less than, anything that was presented before you brought it to the stage and anything that will come afterwards, because that is what your staple is and that is what your mark is as an artist. Mic drop.
You're making me miss being in front of an audience, Jarrell, because that's really to me, that's one of the beautiful things about being on the stage is that you're kind of opening a magic window. Until you start performing the piece, it's notes. It doesn't mean anything. And then suddenly you open up this window, you're like, you can see this piece for 2 hours. Now it's done. Now it goes back to being a piece of paper again. You know what I mean? Like, really, it's the closest thing you get to magic in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should not be afraid of the greatness that can happen through the journey. I think we shy away from that because it's, oh, how can I live up to? It's like, no, how can I live in the moment?
Right.
That's what it's about. That's what theater is about. Doing it once so that way when you're done, people can reflect on that performance, not 10 performances ago and not on your 17th performance. No, right now, every performance is brand new every single time.
I'm so glad you said that, Jill, because that was really, honestly, that's the only thing I could think of when you asked us earlier, Peter, about what's the difference in creating a new role. And I totally agree. That was so well said. I won't even pretend to say it better. I just think that's, I remember seeing, I feel like I've actually heard it from almost every artist I admire, but I think it was a Meryl Streep quote where every time she goes to start a new role, she's sure they're going to find out she's an imposter. She's positive this is the one they find out she doesn't know anything. And I think that, I am an imposter. But that aside, like, it doesn't matter whether whether it's something that I can go back and watch one of the greats do, and if I could, glean every piece of meat from that performance that I could, or if it's just a brand new role that no one's ever breathed life into, or I still feel that moment of like, there's a huge responsibility. Let's go. Like, let's dive in. Let's find what we can. Let's just, let's do everything we can. I don't know. Thanksgiving is in my mind, but you make everything you can. Then you make sandwiches. Then you boil the bones and make broth. Like, every single piece of this goes into the pot. So I'm so glad you said that. I feel like I just got my degree all over again in this conversation.
That'll be $9,999.99. Thank you very much. My Venmo
Did
is.
you mean in Norwegian kroner or in US dollars?
Peter, you mentioned something in regards to Jarrell, which we were just kind of commenting here, is that the thing that was missing in a lot of these virtual performances is the audience.
Yeah.
That is an active member of the performance. And we commented on that, I think, in our premiere at some point. It may have been just to ourselves, but that when recording at home or making the recording, even with our support team and with the composer and librettist and, and Bob and, like, everybody was there, but there's still that one thing that's kind of missing. And I'm sure that everybody feels this same way, is that you do get part of your performance is formed through that give and take from them. And we're all looking forward to that. I think the audiences are looking forward to that too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just thinking about the challenge of performing an old role is not so much that you don't have that it's not fresh. It's the ghosts of all the other people who've sung it that are wandering around the stage. Do you know what I mean? And you have to at some point go, they all want me to do this well, right? You know what I mean? Like, Jarrell doesn't know. The singers that I love that are dead, that I listen to recordings of, they want me to do this my way, and they want me to do it well.
And I think the sooner that any artist can get past that, the better. If you have to do it every single gig,
right? So we're doing Note at Opera in the Heights this spring, and last time I sang Cherubino, I was 20 or 19 years old. So there's the ghost of yourself too that you're comparing and thinking back to, and they want you to do well as well, right? What would my 19-year-old self say to my late 20s self now?
Yeah,
and would they be proud of me, right?
Tess.
The flip side, I was going to say, I have that same thing, like battling your own ghosts in a particular role. But the other side of it is, and I was thinking about Note in particular, every time last time I did it, I was backstage watching, one of the lead up in the quintet, and there's always the same spot. The audience laughs in the same spot. And I love that there is, that audiences for hundreds of years have laughed life into that moment in that opera. And you can feel this, like the lifeblood of that art arching so far back across the world and across all these different artists. And in those moments, I feel so connected to my work and to all of the people who've lived it before, and all of the audiences who have laughed in that moment before. And I find that so magical, and like I belong to a part of humanity that feeds me and feeds the world.
Isn't it astonishing to think that, like, it's Mozart for sure, but it's so many composers. They found some magic way of, they wrote a bunch of symbols down, and that little spot makes people laugh for hundreds of years. Or the fourth act of Figaro. If you don't cry, something's wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, where's your heart? But again, that's a ghost. A ghost that gets animated when you bring it on the stage. But we need to, speaking as a composer who happens to be alive, we also have to make room in our world for new pieces. Otherwise, we don't give that gift to the future, that maybe 100 years from now, someone will find some score that was written right now.
Here's a question for you, Peter.
Yeah.
What about interpretations of pieces that you've written that you I'm not necessarily that you don't agree with, but that you didn't even possibly consider? So like say you create a piece, or so obviously Mozart has been done so many times. Would he rubber stamp literally every single production, Magic Flute on the Moon? Is he celebrating those operas as well, or those productions? How would you feel about that sort of thing, where you create something with an artistic vision, whereas say 50 years down the line, there's a vision of someone doing something that you never possibly could have imagined, like doing it in, I don't know, or some odd locale?
I think I know what you're driving at. I mean, like I think Mozart would be cool with like Magic Flute on the Moon. I don't know if he'd feel that way about Don Giovanni. Mozart seems like a pretty chill guy. I mean, I'm constantly surprised and delighted when I hear my music, especially when it's performed in a way that I didn't expect. And the longer time goes by, the more it doesn't even feel like my piece anymore. Like when I watch productions of The Filthy Habit, I think to myself now, yeah, Sharon was in it, like 15 years ago or something like that. And sorry, Sharon, when I watch that now, I go, wow, this guy, whoever this composer is, really knows what I like. But I don't remember making any of those choices. They're things that I happen to enjoy. The piece has gone, it's now its own thing, and I happen to be a part of it a long time ago. I think if you're a composer that needs to micromanage every aspect of performance, you're not really leaving room for other people. I'm looking at you, Richard Wagner. Like you should leave like a space for other people's art, And I think great music does that. Leaves room for you all to say something.
I will, yes. And what's amazing, Peter, I mean, because we've worked on a few things together, and I remember when we were workshopping Blue Viola at was it Atlas or
yeah,
right before it closed down, I think it was Atlas, and we were working through the piece, and I remember I was like, well, how much liberty do you want here? You're like, go nuts. But you said that to me, and I was like, what? Like,
I didn't know you that well at that time.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you
never
knew
say
what you were
that.
getting yourself into. And it's like, okay. And then I remember the first actual rehearsal. It was like, was that okay? And you were like, oh, that's it? And I was like, wait, what? And you're like, no, literally do more. Like, I love it. And I thought that was so cool that you were flexible for a premiere for that to happen. Fast forward a couple of years later, we did the show again for the remount, and it was a completely different cast and a completely different energy, completely different time period. A lot was happening differently in the world, or about to happen differently in the world, 2016. And I remember even then, you were still saying, it's a different group, it's a different time, it's a different energy, it's a different performance, it's a different show, even though the notes are on the page, take it off the page. And the response was so amazing. And so an added question for you is this: what do you think about, how De Ponte had trios, or he had certain pieces? When you are preparing a work, do you think of it as a solo work, or is it something that can be divvied up into multiple works? So that way, when you have something that's very successful, story-wise and character-wise, would you ever think of expanding upon these other universes so that way you can create off of something that you've already created? Is that something you've ever pondered?
The Decameron spin-off project.
Right. Well, I mean, we're looking at the next project for this group, and I don't want this to be all about me and what I write, because that's nobody wants to hear that for too long. But really, like the act of composing opera is really like creating a world that people inhabit, and lovely people who work really hard and know how to do what they do well, like you all, like the opera singers that we meet. I mean, like when you tell someone, hey, what do you do? I'm an opera composer. You get like this weird like double take, like like I illuminate manuscripts or something. It's the most bizarre job you could think of, but But really the fun of being a composer is all the time you get to spend with singers. And the enjoyment of hearing them sing your music is overwhelming. Like you're sitting there and you're like, this was in my head, and now it's real, and it's better than I thought it would be most of the time. An incredible experience that only opera composers really get to appreciate is when you come to a city, you arrive in a city, your plane lands, you get on an Uber, and you go somewhere, and someone has spent months working on your piece. And you walk in, and the world that you had in your head is suddenly right there, and you didn't do anything. Like you wrote this piece a long time ago. That's an unbelievable experience. It's crazy to know that someone somewhere is working on something you wrote, like, and you're not there. It's very odd and wonderful. But honestly, and we're at time here, but I treasure singers so much. The amount of work and struggle and effort and artistry that you all put into what you do on a day-to-day basis is astonishing, and nobody knows how much hard work it is. It's amazing. Listen, as we're closing off here, I just want to give each of you like a half a second to go take a second to think about this too. If you could go back in time and talk to the baby singer that you used to be, like right when you just started singing, and you like find your first good teacher, and you're trying to figure out, what's my fuck? What am I supposed to do? What advice would you give them, knowing what you know now? What would you tell that version of you if you could go back?
I got this right away. I was a trumpet player for a long time. I would tell myself, you are a singer. You're definitely a singer. Quit trumpet. I would have done it a few years earlier.
All right, so time machine, go back and tell Karin to stop playing the trumpet.
I would simply tell myself to work harder, and that's what I tell young singers to do: work hard.
It's hard. It's hard work.
I would say you're enough. Like it's enough. It's gonna be okay.
Can you email me that? Because I need to hear that.
Anytime.
Yeah, like every morning.
Anytime.
How do you feel like emailing
for all my friends?
Yeah, I would say you're on the right track, and not to second guess yourself, because I mean, all of us are unique singers and we all have something to say, and actually saying that and not being worried about what other people think you're saying or whatever. It's just like, you have a voice and use it, and don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of your own voice.
Brianna. Oh, that was just
Sorry, no, I was literally just like, oh wow, I'm so shiny.
You're a star. You're a shiny, shiny beacon of hope.
Moment of vanity. I would tell myself also, don't be so vain. To my 5-second younger me.
Anybody else?
I think I would tell myself, go create more, do it now. Time flies, right? And I think this idea of not second guessing, it's important to second guess. It's important to criticize and learn from that in a positive way. But I think this feeling of like, I can't until it's perfect, or I won't, and I'll wait, is one that I wish that I had felt less precious about, because, here we are, all of us just have this amazing time capsule now of this time that we did it. We did it now. They said, do you want to do this project with us? We said, yes. And they said, can you learn this in one day? We said, yes. And they said, please make out under the cold, cold moon and act like it's morning. And you said, yes. You just, if you have that, that instinct that tells you, I know what my standards are. I know what art is that I like. Even if I'm not quite reaching it yet, I still have to do it now. Do it now. Just keep creating. I'm so proud of the times that I have done that. And the only thing I think that I wish I could tell my younger self is do it now. Don't wait. Don't feel like it's got to be perfect or it's nothing, because it's so great when it is just the way it is,
I would probably tell myself two things. One, to stop trying to prove you're a classical singer, because you are, and that's fine, and you don't need to prove anything. And the other would be to stop second guessing yourself in the rehearsal space, as you're learning music, when you're on stage. Like, just stop that noise. Just stop it.
I was going to say the same thing. Stop second guessing yourself. And I feel like that's a biggie, right? That's a big one. So to add on to that, I would tell myself to find the parts of me in the work. And I think I spent a lot of time comparing myself to other people. I spent a lot of time taking advice, which you should do to a certain extent. But yeah, I think it would have been more fulfilling for me if I had followed my heart or found myself in the work.
I would have told myself to probably do Mozart earlier. Mozart came to me later because as a lot of tenors have, I was maybe the louder voice of the university situation. So I was given the Puccini before I should have. And my ego loved that. And then I finally found Mozart in like late college into like grad work, actually. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I spent a lot of time doing that. My other thought would be to cultivate all those relationships that you meet throughout, even from the beginning. I was a 19-year-old at Opera Theater St. Louis, and people that were there and people throughout my life said, hey, drop me a line, let me know how things are going, tell me what you're doing in your career. And I didn't think they were serious about it. And I kind of wonder what those crossroads would have been had I truly had the hustle on that we all need to have. And now that we know it, and especially now that I've kind of pivoted out of being a professional singer, I'm now doing development, is it's even harder when you stop singing, that the hustle's there the whole time. It's no different. And if I would have had the foresight to work as hard as I do in fundraising, as I would have worked as hard at singing as I do in fundraising, my career would have probably been a completely different career. So, wife?
Sorry, Django the cat says hi.
Hey, Django.
There's been a lot of cats in and out of the screens.
Yeah, lots of cats. It's awesome.
Yeah. I would tell my younger self to find the joy in everything, because I'm very much a perfectionist, and it's like, unless it's perfect and right, it's crap. And so, but as I've gotten older, I've found the joy in or try to find the joy in everything, even in like non-comic pieces and non-happy pieces, like to find the joy in the work and find the joy in the creative process. And it's supposed to be fun. Yes. It's like hard work. It's super hard work, but it's supposed to be fun. I like to always remember that.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a really good point.
Wow. These are such great things. And
sorry.
Well,
I'll be very quick. So I had to take down notes because it was like I would forget if I didn't. The last one's more important. The other four are like, what? Number one, continue to go where your comfort zone is. #stripper show. Sharon, you know what I mean. Number two, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Number three, I may be Wagnerian in my ambition, but I am Mozart with an attitude. Mindset. Number four, practice, persistence, patience. Three things that I lived by in education, but also I think we could all use more of as we go into this new world that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And the last piece of information ties into that. Write down your goals, dreams, and aspirations so that you don't forget it, because you'll never get them back like a lost memory.
Right. I don't know how that could be followed, but I somehow have to do it. One theme that I keep. Oh, we got one more.
I want to do it.
Go, Tess, I didn't see you.
That's okay. There are lots of boxes. I sort of, it took me a long time to come up with an answer for this because I kind of hesitate to give my younger self any spoilers. I feel like, I feel like my imposter syndrome and my anxiety drove me to work. I don't know if my therapist appreciates that as much as I do, but I would not be, if I had been happy with myself, I would have stopped working on it a long time ago. But I will say, a piece of advice that I was given actually after I lost someone who I was very close to. One of my aunties said to me as I was fresh in grief, said, there's no way to comfort, right? But she said, my piece of advice for you is don't let anybody make you feel like you're grieving the wrong way. Everybody's going to grieve differently, and there's no wrong way to do it. You just have to do it the way you're going to do it. And that's right for you. And I feel like my career, there have been lots of different points where I've been told, like, what is this repertoire list? You're going to confuse everybody and that's never going to work and stuff. And I think I might just give a little hint to myself as a younger singer that says there's not actually a wrong way to go about this career.
Wow. Amazing stuff.
And
yeah.
then you have to follow that.
You know, I have to follow that. Great. Am I missing anybody? I don't want to step on anybody. Did everybody get to? Okay. I think like one thing, and if maybe there are some young singers out there who are trying to like make sense of all of this advice, and maybe it feels like work hard and be yourself are opposite each other, but they're not. Like, in order to be a successful singer, you have to release a good singer from yourself. And that takes a lot of work, like technical work. And you can't really skip that. You have to learn how to sing. But it's not like a good singer is crammed into this mold that they don't fit in. You know what I mean? A good singer has found a good singer inside of themselves and released it. And I love what KF Jacques said about like, I don't remember how you put it, but it was kind of like, don't walk into the opera going, how do I make myself fit into this opera? If the opera is a good opera, it is saying something about what it means to be a human being. And so you are already in there. You just have to be the best you that you can be and bring that to this particular story in the most compelling way that you can make, and make a strong choice. Well, thank you. This is beautiful. It's really inspiring to hear all of your thoughts. Thank you so much for bringing them.
Thank you, Peter.
I look forward to hearing the next opera that you write based on the inspiration this has provided.
That's right. I'll owe you all a residual. I want to announce to everybody who's watching that we're planning a watch party to close out the year on December 30th, so stay tuned for more details. I want to thank our singers here for this inspiring conversation. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting these incredible singers, and thank you most of all for supporting new American opera. We'll see